Hi guys, this is Miss Glass. I just wanted to talk to you guys here while I'm out today. So I wanted to talk to you guys through this video about certain things like some of the historical context of this time period and some details about the Gothic architecture that we are working to identify and also make our own of in our drawing for the next project. So um, let's see. Let's start here. So we are going to be identifying some of the structures that you would find in Gothic architecture. So we need to kind of discuss the parts that are common throughout this style. But before we get there, I do want to show you guys. All right, this is going to be a virtual tour we're going to do. It's going to be like just on the outside, and we will go with the inside next week. So next week we will take a look on the inside and kind of look at what is characteristic of inside of these cathedrals and what it is looking like. So for now, we're just going to kind of peruse the outside in just a moment. So this is another example here. So this is another cathedral that is found in France. But as you can see, like it's very similar to the Notre Dame, but like definitely different. So you kind of see the same style features. So as I said, it's something you can identify. Modern day churches still have some of this stuff on there. So like the Gothic architecture style is very, very popular. Like it stayed popular for about, I would even say like about 500-600 years, like about the year 1100 or so to like all the way up to like almost the 1700s. Like, I mean, it was a very popular style, and it persisted for a while. And even now, we still have things in churches like this. Like, we still never really fully let this go. Like, we still have stained glass windows. We still have art just covering churches, which we'll talk about momentarily. We still have a lot of these arches. We still have, and this one's like coated in arches. We have these steeples at the very top. That's always something we think about with churches is those steeples. Like if you don't know what a building is and you see a steeple, like you automatically still think church, and then so on and so forth. So we'll kind of be breaking this down a little bit. So let's talk about the architectural features of this. So this again is not the Notre Dame, but I'll use this bounce to it when I need to because it has some really good examples of some of our characteristics. So the first thing is we need to talk about let's see, where do I want to start? Let's start with a rose window. Okay, so let's go over here because there's has one here with the Notre Dame. There is one in the front here, but there's some really big ones on the side. So this is a huge rose window. We do have some smaller ones here and here. This is a regular feature of this kind of style, and essentially, it's not really about flowers. The only reason why it's called a rose window is because it's round in shape. Like it's not a regular shaped window. So that's the only reason why it's called that. It kind of reminds people of flowers. And so that is then termed a rose window. But that's all it is. It's a rounded stained glass window. It's not very colorful on the outside, but it is super colorful on the inside, which we'll get to. Okay. So that's pretty much a rose window. Let's see. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is going to be, let's see. Let's do the arches. So we have a lot of arches on this kind of building, like a ton. And some of them are even pointed. So these are actually called vaulted arches when they're pointed like that. But you see both kinds, rounded and not rounded on these buildings. And they're everywhere. I mean, they love these things. Like they try to put as many of them as they possibly can. In the windows, the doors, just details in the building. I mean, like they're everywhere. And I'll go ahead and kind of zoom in for you so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. And look at this detail, guys. Like literally everything here is hand carved. Like nothing is like from a factory. Like it was not a thing. Like I mean, it is all hand done. Stone by stone. Now, you guys know this took like 185, 87 years to make. This was an ongoing process. You can imagine kind of the coordination that this took, and even the doors. Just look at that. Oh, it looks so amazing. But yeah, so there's lots of details here, and we'll kind of go to the left right here so you can see one of the other doors down here. There we go. So same thing. I mean, like literally every square inch of this thing is just like, it's loving. It's lovingly done. Like it is, there is nothing that has not been paid attention to. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of turn back around here. I gotta go here. And again, this is in Paris, France. So that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing lots of tourists in these photos. And I'll keep that for later. So those are a little surprise later. I'll try to point it out. From here, we're going to kind of go upwards at the top. I want to kind of show you some really cool stuff. Let's see. Let me check my list. We talked about rose window. We talked about arches, steeples, alcove. I almost forgot about alcove. So alcove, this is a really great example here of an alcove. So this is, think of like an ice cream scoop and like scoop a section out of the wall. It's usually like a recess, like into the wall. Like it's literally when someone says alcove, even if it's indoors, they're referencing something. It means like an area, like a recess, like it's kind of like pushed off from the main area. So that's what an alcove is. And usually these were used for areas for like sculptures or like doors. Like you see this alcove has a door. And sometimes even windows will be there. But this one looks like it's supposed to house a sculpture. It looks like it's missing. Might be in a museum. It might have gotten damaged where they had to remove it. But yeah, so that's what alcoves are. Okay. And I think that's pretty much it. The last thing is the flying buttresses. And I know it's a funny word. I don't know why it's called that. It does kind of, I guess, look a little bit like tree buttresses, which are almost like roots, but they remind me of spider legs. So here is the buttress over here, the flying buttress. And it kind of reminds me of spider legs coming off of the building. So these actually were an architectural feat. So one of the things about history is like not everything happens all at once. So like back then, our exchange of ideas was not as common and quick as now. We can't just like send an email or call somebody and be like, hey, we figured out this really cool thing. You should try it out. And here's how to do it. Back then, like, I mean, it might have taken thousands of years sometimes to kind of catch up or kind of discover something that another culture across the world has already discovered. If you wanted to travel even just hundreds of miles, I mean, like it took weeks to do that. Like it didn't just take a car trip, like a day or two. So it was just kind of a different world back then. And exchange of ideas and knowledge just weren't as readily accessible as they are now. So these engineers came across a problem because these walls were not doing right. Like they kept falling. They're too big, right? So they built big. And that's an issue. Like every civilization has had to figure out how to build big, and they've all kind of come up with something a little different to do this. So this is their solution was flying buttresses. And this kind of provides, like, think about a hand. Like, you know, if someone's fixing to fall, like you will put your hand out and support them. So that's pretty much what this is. Like it's trying to support that wall. It's trying to share the load of the weight, all this heaviness. Like it's not by itself. He has a friend right here and it's going, hey bud, like I will help you with this weight. And so you have 2 points of balance here, the wall and the buttress itself, that is taking some of that weight off that wall and kind of pushing it to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. So because if it wasn't there, all that weight with no kind of other support based on how it's built would eventually buckle it. So that is really cool that they figured out how to do that, and it allowed them to build big. Okay. So that is pretty much that. So a little bit more about the historical context of stuff, and I'll try to kind of go over to my what doohickey call it, my virtual tour here. So we're going to kind of go up here in this area. So we're going to click right here. So a little bit more about the context of the history here. Guys, we kind of take for granted now in the modern day that like almost everyone can read and write. That's called being literate. But back then, let's just ballpark it like around 1300 or so. Let's just kind of say around there. Not a lot of people could read or write. It was kind of reserved. We're going to come up here to this little walking area. So you can see arches right here all around you. Pretty cool little place here. You can see the 2 towers. So like I was saying, like the context of history here is very interesting because it's kind of flip-flop to what we kind of know about the modern day world. So here's our beautiful view here. I'll kind of let it chill there for a second. And so the reason why this is very important is because churches, their kind of main mission, of course, is to be there for the community, kind of be a pillar of the community, and spread their religion, whatever the religion is of the church. And art for a very long time, like that was its role in history, was to help them do this. Like churches employed them. Like it wasn't just something that they did. And these are not gargoyles, grotesque. Gargoyles, I'll try to point out in just a second. But grotesque are just statues. That's all they are. So. But yeah, so essentially like the literacy was an issue because churches were trying to spread their religion and kind of do that for their communities. But it wasn't working good because, of course, they needed to be able to read the Bible, and they could not, or in this case, Christianity, they read the Bible, and they could not. So they relied on art. A lot of churches did this. They relied on art to provide visual storytelling to tell the stories of the Bible, and that's why churches are covered in art, inside, outside. Outside, there's always like stone statues. Like, I mean, it is covered from ceiling to floor as much as they possibly could with art. And it was to provide those stories to those people because, again, they had no access to it otherwise. Education was not something so free to have back then, guys. It was very elite. It was very just for clergymen, people of the church, and pretty much like very, very, very wealthy families, which is a very small amount. Like, it wasn't a lot. And unfortunately, that was probably also very restricted to only men. So unfortunately, it was very, very, very restricted. And thank goodness we have changed that now. But like, I mean, pretty big deal to be able to know how to read and write. So for the majority of people, when they came into a church, like they weren't always, teaching actively and talking. Like, they got to take breaks. So they just perused the church. They would come in, do their thing, look around. And they would see stories all around them. So that's pretty much why that's there. It's important for you to know that. That's a huge part of history, guys. So just understand, like, things were very different back then. And that's kind of a little bit insight there. And you might be asking, like, why are these churches so stinking big? Like, obviously, a lot of love and a lot of money and a lot of time went into these. And it's because the structure of that historical time period was very different than ours now. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. For now, I do want to point out these little guys that are kind of pointing off the building. These are gargoyles. So these are actually what I was talking about. They kind of work like gutters. So it's a gargoyle if it's like literally mounted to the building. It's like really arching out, and the mouth is usually open for water to pour out. So if it does that, that is in fact a gargoyle. Down here, these get mistaken. These are grotesque. These are not gargoyles, and these are just solid stone statues. This was just kind of like a belief. They provided protection. It was just kind of like a superstition thing. People put them on churches like that. There's a steeple right here, and then here is a closer image of a flying buttress. So yeah. And here's my little Easter egg here, so to speak. Really cool thing. There's the Eiffel Tower. My kiddo pointed this out to me today, actually. And there it is, which is really cool. So yeah. And these are birds. These are hawks. I think they probably put them here for the same reason that you put plastic owls in gardens to keep birds from making nests. So pretty neat. But yeah, so everything you see, guys, I mean, it is hand carved, which is really crazy. Like, I mean, took a lot of time. All right, so that's pretty much my virtual tour for the outside for right now. And I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's pretty good for our historical context today. And hopefully you found some of that interesting. And of course, we will be reviewing the parts of the Gothic architecture, the flying buttresses, the rose windows, the alcoves, the arches. We will be reviewing that information as well from week to week. So from here, guys, I'm going to kind of sign off, and we'll move on to the next thing. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.